We all know Africa for sweeping savannas and the Nile, but Sudan hides coral kingdoms and shipwrecked graveyards along a forgotten Red Sea coast. And volcanic Gebel Marra harbors steaming crater lakes that few travelers expect. Join me as we move from sunken reefs and thriving marine reserves to Nile cataracts, Tokar's wetlands. Rarely seen on maps is a stretch of the Red Sea coast that shelters one of the planet's longest continuous coral reefs, the Sudanese Red Sea Reef, teeming with species found nowhere else. Do you know the Suakin archipelago off the Sudanese Red Sea hides ancient shipwrecks and freshwater springs that create microhabitats unlike anywhere else? Beneath the surface, gardens of hard and soft corals cascade in colors so intense, scientists once assumed they were exaggerated. These reefs support over 1,200 fish species and are a critical corridor for migratory whales and endangered dugongs. On the shoreline, salt flats and shimmering mangroves act as nurseries, connecting desert rains to ocean life in ways most coastal systems never do. Fisher communities around Port Sudan rely on ancient knowledge of tide cycles, reading the reef like a living map passed down for generations. From Port Sudan, the coast sweeps north toward the Coral Islands, where time seems to fold, peeling back layers of Ottoman forts and medieval trading posts. At Suakin's ruined stone piers, barnacles cling to memories of frankincense roots, while seabirds nest among crumbling arches. Dive sites here transition rapidly. Shallow lagoons give way to dramatic walls, where currents sculpt exquisite sponges and rare gorgonians. Strong currents carry nutrients that feed plankton blooms, which in turn light up predator migrations, creating seasonal spectacles rarely witnessed elsewhere. Conservationists now race to document this living library before development and warming seas rewrite its story. Local guardians, communities of fishers, guides, and students blend traditional stewardship with modern science to map and protect these reefs. Following their work leads us naturally from coral gardens to offshore atolls, where nighttime bioluminescence traces the path of tiny crustaceans. Here, island shadows and open sea meet, and the Red Sea coast reveals itself as an edge habitat, fragile yet vibrantly alive. Understanding this coastline means seeing how deserts, seas, and human history interlock to create a place both ancient and urgently modern. As we move on, the Red Sea's hidden wonders will guide us to more surprising connections along Sudan's storied shores. Merowe's desert dunes form one of the world's last active sand belts that press up against the Nile's floodplain. Do you know that at Merowe, the shifting sands have, over centuries, swallowed river camps and then revealed them again when wind or water reshaped the land? Here the dunes are not static monuments, but living landscapes, migrating in slow, patient waves that can erase tracks and expose pottery in the same season. The wind carves dunes into rare star and crescent shapes, and those geometries record sunstorm and centuries of climate change in their layers. Under the crust of warm sand lie fossilized river channels and gastropod shells that tell of an era when this region was wetter and greener. Nomadic herders still read the dunes like charts, following subtle shifts to find desert wells and grazing pockets for their flocks. Birds and reptiles use the lee slopes as nesting niches, and at dawn the dunes hum with small life that vanishes by noon. When the Merowe Dam reshaped the Nile's flow, archaeologists raced here and uncovered grave mounds, rock art panels, and stone tools that the sand had hidden. Those discoveries rewired our understanding of human movement between river and desert, a story that begins on these dunes and stretches upriver to ancient trading ports. Follow the sand's edge, and you arrive at braided river channels that once fed fertile islands, now submerged or reclaimed, linking the dunes to the Nile's ancient economy. At sunset, the dunes silhouette a horizon where modern settlements and archaeological sites meet, and travelers glimpse how nature and culture have negotiated this boundary for millennia. To step from the cool riverbank onto these warm slopes is to cross a seam of time, from irrigated fields to wind-swept memory, and to see Sudan's history written in sand. On the sun-baked plain, where the Bayuda Desert folds into the Nile corridor, Jebel Shat towers as a rare labyrinth of weathered fawning stone and granite that glows like molten ochre at dusk. Do you know, Jebel Shat hides a network of honeycombed caverns and vertical fissures that channel seasonal rains into underground pools, sustaining isolated oases. Local shepherds swear the rock's veins map an ancient water table that has guided caravans for millennia. From a distance, it looks like a solitary monolith, but up close it reveals terraces, natural arches, and petroglyphs carved by hands long gone. Climbing its flanks, explorers find surprise panoramas over red dunes and the distant bend of the Nile, where Kushite kingdoms once thrived. The stone records, subtle color bands, and fossilized marine layers, telling a story of seas giving way to desert over tens of millions of years. Archaeologists have unearthed pottery fragments and burial sites at the base, suggesting Jebel Shat was more than a landmark. It was a sacred waypoint. That connection threads Jebel Shat to nearby ancient sites like Old Dongola and the Nile's antiquities, forming a corridor of forgotten histories. Geologists call its sculpted faces a textbook example of differential erosion, where hard veins resist wind while softer rock hollows into caves. In places, those caves have been widened by humans into shelters and shrines, their entrances aligned to sunrise on certain holy days. Daylight reveals an orchestra of tiny crystals and mineral streaks that flash when temperatures shift, a detail not visible on satellite images. At night, the silhouette of Jebel Shat becomes a compass point for shepherds and a canvas for constellations reflected in shallow rock pools. Visiting here feels like stepping into a layered timepiece where geology, ecology, and history overlap in unexpected ways. We will trace those layers, climb the narrow gullies, and listen for the whispers of caravans that once threaded this landscape. And as we move from these rock ribs toward the Nile's green edge, you'll see how Jebel Shat's secrets connect to the larger pulse of Sudan's ancient lifelines. Prepare to discover details so specific they rewrite how you imagine deserts, not as empty places, but as repositories of hidden water, memory, and myth. The Rahad River Basin harbors one of the last intact Sahelian floodplain mosaics, where seasonal inundation sculpts parallel wetlands and riverine forests rarely found elsewhere. Do you know the Rahad River Basin becomes a ribbon of life that links highland ranges in Ethiopia to Sudan's vast savannas, creating short-lived lakes that host tens of thousands of migratory birds? When the rains arrive upstream, the river swells and spills into reed-fringed channels, nourishing papyrus beds and cracked clay pans that spring into green within days. Local villages time their planting, grazing, and fishing to this pulse, moving livestock along traditional corridors that mirror the river's seasonal map. Hidden within these floodplains are ancient river terraces dotted with archaeological mounds that hint at human ties to the water stretching back millennia. Fishermen still cast nets for seasonal species found nowhere else in Sudanese waters, while rare carnivores slip along shaded gallery forests. The basin's fragile wetlands also act as a natural filter, slowing sediment from the Ethiopian highlands and feeding the downstream Sennar irrigation schemes on the Blue Nile. In this way, the Rahad connects to larger water systems, quietly shaping agriculture and livelihoods far beyond its winding banks. Conservationists are increasingly drawn to the Rahad because it forms a stepping stone between Dindir National Park and more arid rangelands, allowing wildlife to move seasonally. Protecting its corridors could mean safeguarding populations of antelope, water birds, and the small specialized fish that depend on floodplain cycles. Yet the basin faces mounting pressures from upstream land use change, unscheduled irrigation projects, and the unpredictability of rainfall under climate shifts. Each unplanned canal or dam alters the timing of floods and the mosaic of habitats that make the Rahad rare in the global landscape. Communities here are adapting with knowledge passed through generations, blending reedcraft, seasonal farming, and floodplain grazing practices that keep ecosystems functional. Hidden for too long from maps and tourist guides, its seasonal lakes are hotspots of discovery for biologists mapping Sudan's uncelebrated biodiversity. Stay with us as we trace the river's dry season secrets, the oxbow pools and secret springs that sustain life when the flood retreats. What we find there will reshape how you imagine Sudan's waterways and why protecting small overlooked rivers can change the fate of a whole regions. Arous Marine Reserve preserves one of the Red Sea's last intact coral corridors along Sudan's coastline, a rarity on an otherwise desert-bounded seascape. Do you know that Arous Marine Reserve supports labyrinthine coral pinnacles and rare seagrass meadows that nurse juvenile reef fish and endangered turtles? Below the surface, gardens of stony and soft corals rise like cathedral spires, hosting an extraordinary array of endemic Red Sea fishes. Above, narrow sandy keys become critical nesting grounds, where loggerhead and hawksbill turtles have been observed returning year after year. These reefs form living bridges that connect the Suakin archipelago to the offshore UNESCO-listed Dindir Bay complex, stitching distant ecosystems into a single biological highway. That connection means a coral fragment or a migrating grouper from Arous can influence ecosystems tens of kilometers away, shaping fisheries and genetic diversity. Local communities still practice traditional fishing techniques that have coexisted with reef regeneration, a fragile balance now protected under reserve rules. Scientists have begun to map coral genotypes here, revealing pockets of resilience that could guide reef restoration across the warming Red Sea. During certain seasons, the reserve attracts large visitors, manta rays, whale sharks, and schools of hammerhead, transforming quiet lagoons into moving cathedrals of life. These migrations link Arous to migratory corridors used by pelagic species that also visit Sanganib and the Sudanese coast further north. Conservation efforts have combined local stewardship with international research, quietly turning Arous into a living laboratory for coral adaptation. Every transplanted coral, tagged turtle, and community patrol yields data that traces back to how the entire Red Sea network, including Eritrea and Egypt, responds to change. To walk the shorelines of Arous is to stand where ocean remedies and human traditions meet, where what happens here echoes across nations. In the next segment, we'll follow a scientist from a Suakin boat into the reserve's heart to uncover the secrets those coral towers still hide. Beneath Sudan's Red Sea coast lie the Suakin coral reefs, one of the planet's rare fringing reef systems that endure some of the highest recorded sea temperatures and salinity levels. Do you know Suakin's coral gardens have species compositions and survival strategies not seen in most tropical reefs, hinting at evolutionary experiments hidden beneath the waves? Ancient Suakin's ruined stone port bridges past and present because the same currents that once carried spice ships now nurture delicate coral structures in warm, clear water. Divers and scientists who come here find coral morphologies twisted into compact, heat-tolerant forms, living libraries of resilience that connect directly to neighboring reef arcs along Sudan's coast. The reefs are mosaics of bright table corals, finger-like branching species, and enormous boulder colonies, each patch feeding and sheltering fish communities unique to this stretch of the Red Sea. Currents funnel nutrients from offshore channels, linking Suakin's reefs to the deep water upwellings that sustain life across the Red Sea corridor toward Port Sudan and beyond. Night dives reveal bioluminescent plankton and sleeping parrotfish, and in the morning, fishermen still set traditional nets near reef edges where nursery grounds spawn new generations. Conservationists map these connections because protecting Suakin means preserving migratory routes and genetic exchange between isolated reef pockets that act like underwater archipelagos. Coral colonies here have developed pigmentation and compact growth to reflect light and survive heat spikes, adaptations that may hold keys for reef restoration worldwide. Researchers bring back fragments, not to strip the reef, but to study and seed damaged patches along the Red Sea, tying Suakin's fate to regional recovery efforts. Local communities carry knowledge too, naming reef features and timing harvests by moon phases, a cultural thread linking human life to coral cycles. When storms pass, sand and broken coral drift to nearby mangrove fringes, showing how each ecosystem, reef, mangrove, seagrass, depends on the other. If you think of coral reefs as fragile relics, Suakin challenges that idea by demonstrating endurance shaped by extreme conditions and long cultural stewardship. What happens here will matter for coastlines across the Red Sea, because these hardy formations may teach us how to protect reefs facing higher temperatures worldwide. In the next section, we'll dive deeper into the species that make Suakin unique and the small-scale efforts trying to shield them from warming seas. Listen for the surprising discoveries that could reshape reef science and the quiet ways local guardians keep this coral heritage alive. Tagabo Hills hide an astonishing congregation of mushroom-shaped granite tors in Sudan, sculpted so precisely that some look hand-carved by an invisible sculptor. Do you know the Tagabo Hills host stones that have perched for millennia on pedestals no wider than a wrist, surviving wind, rain, and thermal shock, as if balanced by intent? The story of these rocks begins deep in time, when molten granite slowly cooled and cracked into columns and slabs. Over eons, wind-blown sand and seasonal temperature swings sanded away the softer joints, leaving the harder cores standing like giants. What remains are surreal silhouettes, domes, thin balancing plates, and rounded boulders stacked in impossible sequences. Local shepherds point out rocks that resemble camels, sleeping lions, and even abstract human profiles, and every shape has a whispered legend. At dawn, mist curls through the hollows and highlights the grain of the stone, while at dusk, the surfaces blaze with copper and ochre. Small pockets of soil trapped between boulders host rare mosses and lichens that cling where few plants can survive. Those microhabitats are little islands of life that scientists prize for the unique communities they shelter. Walkers who thread the narrow passes will find echoes of human history carved into scattered flakes and hollowed pavements. The stones themselves guide routes between water pockets and grazing ground, linking this limestone-like castle to the wider savanna. From the Tagabo ridges, the land angles gently toward broader plains, and in the distance, the waterways that feed into Sudan's great river systems. In that way, these silent sentinels are not isolated curiosities, but milestones on a landscape that tells the story of life, erosion, and passage across centuries. Next, we follow the trail down from the tors, where dry wadis open the road to the red cliffs and fertile floodplains beyond. And a new chapter of Sudan's geology awaits. Only a handful of coastal wetlands combine coral-fed tidal flats with freshwater fan deltas. Sudan's Tokar Delta is one of those rare ecosystems where Red Sea currents sculpt mangrove islands. Do you know that Tokar Delta's seasonal floods can create ephemeral lagoons so vast they act as temporary breeding seas for fish normally found offshore in the Red Sea? This shifting patchwork of mud, salt marsh, and palm-fringed channels supports migratory birds that time their passage between the Nile's floodplains and the coral reefs off Suakin. Local fishermen speak of tides that bring young reef fish into inland waters, linking offshore coral life to the delta's freshwater pulses. Walking the Tokar Delta in the dry season reveals ancient sandbars and petrified shells that hint at millennia of changing sea levels. Hidden under the mud are root systems of rare mangrove stands that, despite heat and salinity, trap silt and build new land. An unusually rapid coastline in geological terms. Salt pans glitter like mirrors where halophyte plants and flamingos share the same shallow pools. Conservationists are now watching these pans as natural laboratories for species adapting to extreme water chemistry. The delta's freshwater channels originate from the Eritrean highlands and seasonal wadis, creating a corridor that binds mountain ranges to the Red Sea. That corridor has shaped human settlement too, hosting Nubian and Beja communities who harvest mangrove wood, fish, and palm dates in patterns passed down for generations. Beneath the waterline, seagrass meadows extend toward the coral reefs, acting as nurseries and carbon sinks far richer than would be expected in such arid surroundings. Scientists mapping carbon capture here have been surprised by how much organic material these wetlands sequester compared with nearby desert margins. Seasonal storms occasionally redraw the coastline, creating new channels and isolating little islets that become temporary bird colonies. These dynamic changes make the Tokar Delta an open-air classroom for studying climate resilience on the edge of the African continent. Understanding Tokar means seeing Sudan not as isolated landscapes, but as an integrated coastal tapestry where deserts yield to wetlands and then to reefs. Here, conservation could safeguard not just birds and fish, but centuries of human history tied to changing tides. Stay with us, and you'll discover how protecting one fragile delta can ripple across the Red Sea and back into the heartlands of Sudan. Along the Nile, Sudan harbors one of the world's most concentrated stretches of river cataracts, where ancient crystalline bedrock forces the river into boiling rapids. Do you know the Nile River cataracts in Sudan once acted as natural fortresses that guided the movement of people, goods, and empress for millennia? These cataracts are not just white water. They are massive outcrops of granite and gneiss, sculpted over millions of years into stepped thresholds and hidden channels. Between them, the river fragments into islands, eddies, and narrow sluices that created safe havens for fisheries and sacred groves. Ancient quarry scars and rock inscriptions still cling to the faces of these stones, marking where Pharaonic, Nubian, and later Sudanese craftsmen once worked. The Third Cataract region, for example, preserves cemeteries and ruins that link directly to the Nubian kingdom and its river economy. Upstream, each cataract presents a different personality. Some widen into braided shelves, others funnel the Nile through narrow, thunderous necks. That variation created a patchwork of microhabitats where crocodiles bask, rare birds nest, and floodplain forests take root in shallow soils. For river travelers, cataracts demanded portage routes, seasonal timing, and local knowledge, shaping the pattern of settlements and trade nodes along the banks. Those same routes connected the cataract sites to nearby archaeological centers, linking natural geology with human history in a continuous thread. In the dry season, the rocks reveal their scars and hidden channels, offering glimpses into the river's violent past and calmer springs. During floods, the cataracts reassert themselves, turning placid stretches into tumultuous barriers that test the ingenuity of anyone who would crawl across. Today, small communities still read the river like a living map, timing migrations, harvests, and boat journeys by the cataract's moods. Conserving these formations means protecting not only dramatic scenery, but also the ancestral knowledge, rituals, and languages tied to each rapids and islet. as modern dams and development alter flows both upstream and downstream. The fate of Sudan's cataracts hangs in a delicate balance between progress and preservation. Understanding these stone staircases along the Nile is to see how landscape can carve a nation's history, culture, and survival into its very bedrock. Walking the cataract zones, you can still hear stories of river pilots, kings, and merchants who learned to read the hidden channels like a script. These narratives connect the rugged banks to nearby sites of ancient power, suggesting that every island or rapid was once a stage in a larger drama. In the film ahead, we will trace those threads from rock to ruin, from whirlpool to temple, revealing how the Nile's cataracts shaped Sudan's landscape and legacy. Gebel Marra harbors the Dabbah caldera, a volcanic crater more than 1.5 kilometers wide, ringed with crater lakes and montane woodlands that are exceptionally rare in Sudan. Do you know Gebel Marra's highlands create their own rainy microclimate, turning an otherwise parched landscape into pockets of misty forest and year-round springs? From its granite ridges cascade seasonal streams that carve deep gorges and feed fertile valleys where farmers cultivate sorghum and coffee in terraces. The mountains' volcanic soils and higher rainfall made it both an ecological refuge and a cradle of human settlement for millennia. Birds unseen in the surrounding savanna, secretive warblers, raptors, and migratory stopovers find sanctuary among juniper and wild olive groves. Botanists have recorded endemic plants clinging to cool slopes, species that survive nowhere else in Sudan. At dawn, the Dabbah lakes mirror fog-rolled cliffs, and in wet years, spill over to create ephemeral marshes blooming with lilies and dragonflies. These seasonal wetlands are tiny but vital way stations for millions of inmates and for migratory birds crossing the Nile. Local tales name the crater springs as sources of healing and the mountain as a refuge in times of conflict, binding culture to landscape. Archaeologists and historians trace ancient caravan routes that skirt the highlands, showing how Gebel Marra linked sub-Saharan trade to North African networks. It is this improbable mountain oasis, its ecology, its people, its stories, that makes Gebel Marra one of Sudan's hidden wonders and a gateway to the wider landscapes we'll explore next. Coming next, we'll trace the waters that begin here as tiny streams and later join broader waterways, connecting highland secrets to rivers and deserts beyond. Follow the trail uphill, and you'll find that every rock and rivulet here tells a story of fire, rain, and endurance. Leaving the river plains behind, we find Dindir Game Reserve, a living mosaic where seasonal floods breathe life into vast savannas. Do you know that during the rains, the Dindir River transforms pale grasslands into floating islands that attract mass migrations of birds? Giant herds of cow and buffalo follow the rising waters, while elusive predators time their hunts to the rhythm of the floods. Do you know that Dindir shelters migratory flyways, connecting East African wetlands to the heart of Sudan? A corridor few realize is this crucial. It is here that shepherds and wildlife historically shared grazing edges, creating a fragile balance threatened by modern pressures, yet anchored in centuries of local knowledge. Do you know that poaching, agricultural expansion, and climate shifts have pushed species like the Nubian giraffe and wild dogs to the margins, making every sighting extraordinary? Park rangers patrol along ancient elephant trails, while conservationists map wetlands to predict where wildlife will gather after the next storm. Do you know that local communities have revived seasonal festivals that mark the flood cycles, blending ritual knowledge with modern conservation to protect corridors and sustain livelihoods? From Dindir's marshes, the landscape folds toward gallery forests, where the silhouettes of acacia and dome palm betray hidden water sources and unexpected wildlife concentrations. Do you know that during the dry season, these green threads become lifelines for migratory elephants crossing toward borderlands, linking Dindir to neighboring reserves in a single survival circuit? As we trace those paths, we begin to see Sudan's hidden geography. Rivers that double as highways, parks as living libraries, and people whose knowledge is conservation. Do you know how this fragile network will adapt when the next climate pulse arrives, and which alliances between scientists and villagers will decide which species survive? Dabbah Desert Oasis shelters one of the Sahara's few year-round freshwater springs, sustaining palm groves hundreds of meters wide. Do you know that Dabbah Desert Oasis sits above limestone caverns that concentrate underground water into crystalline pools unseen across most deserts? Visitors are often stunned by the sudden green of acacia and dome palms against endless sand and cracked earth. Birdsong here marks migratory corridors that bend through Sudan toward the Nile. The oasis supports endemic dragonflies, and tiny fish species adapted to saline shifts no one anticipated. Local farmers harvest dates using irrigation methods passed down through generations, their terraces knitting soil back to life. By dusk, smoke from clay ovens mingles with perfume of flowering oleander, and elders recount caravan legends. Those stories trace a living thread from Dabbah's pools to ancient trading paths that once carried ifrit and incense scents. Beneath the palms lie shards of pottery and petroglyphs, hinting at human ties to this water for millennia. Archaeologists now believe the oasis served as a seasonal hub, linking Sudan's interior deserts to Nile settlements. Follow the dusty track southeast, and the landscape begins to echo the river's voice. A subtle change in soil and sky that route connects Dabbah to the Nile corridor, where fishermen and boat builders translate desert water into riverborne life. What looks like an isolated green patch is actually a hinge between ecosystems, turning migratory birds into unwitting cartographers. Its springs recharge shallow aquifers that feed floodplain wells downstream during droughts, a quiet hydraulic handshake. Conservationists worry about overpumping, but nearby communities balance tradition with modern wells to keep the oases breathing. Young agronomists are introducing drought-resistant sorghum alongside ancient palms, creating a hybrid future for food and shade. At night, stars mirror the pools, and you can hear the hollow call of desert foxes circling the date palms. If you trace those fox tracks, you eventually find a worn path leading toward the ruins and the broad highway to Merowe. Dabbah's survival is a testament to human ingenuity and the stubborn generosity of water in hostile lands. Its quiet persistence asks us to rethink deserts, not as empty places, but as fragile hubs where life and history meet. From the rust-red pyramids of Merowe rising like sentinels on the desert ridge to the intricate coral cities beneath the Red Sea, this land stitches together worlds few travelers can imagine. Dozens of ancient kingdoms and living traditions converge where the white and blue Nile meet, making Khartoum both a crossroads and a river heart of history. In the shade of Gebel Marra, and across the wetlands and savanna of Dindir, wildlife and sacred landscapes whisper stories older than recorded time. Across the Bayouda and the Sahara edges, wind-carved stones and rock art map human journeys that still echo in local songs and markets. Along the Red Sea coast, coral gardens and shipwrecks guard a marine heritage, as vulnerable as it is splendid, demanding careful stewardship. And inland, communities keep languages, crafts, and cuisines alive, fragile threads that bind past to present and shape the nation's tomorrow. If you thought you knew North Africa, Sudan will reroute every expectation, revealing places both surprising and essential to our shared human story. Let this journey be more than a list of wonders. Let it be an invitation to listen, learn, and help preserve a landscape where history and nature remain fiercely interconnected. As borders shift and time moves forward, protection of these sites and respect for the people who steward them becomes the truest measure of our travelers' curiosity. Come back with questions, with joy, and with a commitment to keep these hidden wonders from fading into silence.